On this episode of Motivational, I am joined by the wonderful MXiety as we talk about what it is to be a mental health advocate and mental health in general. And to start us out, I would absolutely appreciate it if you would introduce yourself. Tell us about you, links, socials, all of the cool stuff, what you're doing on your stream, all of those things. Go for it.
Okay, so you can find me on all the things as MXiety, like anxiety without the AN and with an M instead. My name is Marie. I'm a mental health talk show host, advocate, Twitch partner here on, Twitch partner on Twitch, obviously. But so what else about me? I've written a book. The goal I have with my show is to make mental health information reliable, mental health information accessible to everyone, and make sure that people are informed. And that is that's how I run. That's what I run with things. So that's me. My background is I am a editorial program manager at a medical publishing company. I have experience in scientific and medical like research and stuff like that.
Wow.
So basically my whole career, I have been combining and summarizing really tough to read things to make them easier to understand for everybody. So that's what I've been doing. And when I experienced a really hard time, I decided, hey, why don't I do that on a scale that's live so that more people, we can talk about mental health, but we'll get to that. But that's me. Find me on the Twitter probably most of the time. And then I stream now Tuesdays and Fridays only. Freaking me out, but I'm doing it. And Tuesdays we have a show called Safe Point, which Ashlina was on. The goal of that show is to talk to mental health advocates and professionals and people just with lived experience in general about just answering all the mental health questions you can, either from your perspective or from a professional's perspective, right?
Yes.
And then when we're not doing that, we're either playing games, we have open topic discussions, we do resource review where we pick a mental health resource and we go through the website and talk about what's good about it and what's, missing and stuff. So
like helping break the stigmas, which is absolutely, super important with this. And honestly, I think the best thing to do is just to go ahead and just get into question one. So tell us more about your talk show. You can go into specifics if you would like. Whatever you need to do.
Am I going to talk a lot? I'm going to talk a lot, aren't
I love it. I love it. I love it.
Okay. So the show, so I kind of told you about the format, but it all started with, I had a really big breakdown I was working in a marketing agency in New York City, and I thought it was really cool until I started pushing aside my mental health. And I pushed myself, and I was like, I don't need help. I'm fine. Everything's fine. Even though I had mental health issues before and I'd been diagnosed and had been on medication before, I was like, I don't need any of that. I got it because I've been around the block. I'm not doing this again. And I had a very public panic attack at work. And then they were like, you probably shouldn't be working. And I was like, yes, probably. And then I came home and basically was like, well, this, by the way, content warning, I do talk about suicidal ideation. I don't give any details, but if that's something that is going to trigger you, just keep that in mind. It's for the next 5 minutes and then not. So you can mute and then unmute. So I was basically like, well, my career is in the toilet, and depression, anxiety have taken everything from me. I guess I'm checking out. I guess I'm done. I'm done. I don't want to be here anymore. And I had always dreamed of writing. I had always dreamed of doing something, of making an impact. And basically when you're at that low, everything seems like, what do I got to lose? My other option is check it out. I can check out at any time. Why don't I just try? Why don't I just try this thing that I've always wanted to do? And that is when I leaped in head first. And I decided to use Twitch because specifically, YouTube is awesome. But one, I didn't have amazing editing skills. And two, I just I wanted to have live interaction and talk to people in real time and answer their questions from my perspective, and then wanted to do interviews to talk to people about their mental health. Because the thing about mental health, and I'm sure you know this, a lot of people know this in chat, is everybody experiences mental health. Obviously, it's your brain health, but everybody deals with it at some point. But most people don't talk about
Right,
it. And
right.
it was one of those things where when I started talking about why I had to leave work and I was talking to my friends, everybody's like, oh, me too.
Yeah.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
And so like as soon as I started talking about it, there was like this really crappy club that it turned out that I was part of like, okay, but don't talk about it. But like now that you brought it up, yeah, I'm really excited that you brought it up because I want to talk about it.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I'm done doing that. And so actually my first few guests, I was really lucky, and I'm still very grateful to them, were like IRL friends who were willing to share their story.
Yeah.
And some of them would like sit off the camera and tell their story so that they remain, you know, relatively anonymous.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. But like, yeah, so those are my first few guests, and that's how it all started. And it's here now.
Yeah.
And it's a wild ride. It's been really cool. It's been really cool.
Yeah. And as someone, you know, if I could speak as someone who has been on the show before, it was such an important discussion. I felt zero judgment. I felt safe there. Good. You know, like I felt comfortable enough to tell my story, you know, and at that time, little did you know, I was having a really rough time. I was having a really rough time. And so it was so great. Not only was I able to talk about mental health, I was able to talk about chronic illnesses and like how that affects your mental health and just all of those things, you know? So as someone who has been on the show, please be sure to check it out. Twitch.tv/MXiety, like anxiety, but with an M, obviously. And for those who can see the screen, I know that my listeners on Spotify and Apple Music, you can't, but under the screen, under MXiety's camera, it spells it for you. So if you need to know how to spell it, there it is. But yeah, no, the show is absolutely fantastic. And I'm so glad you decided to do it, because here's the thing. I think, and obviously, this is a personal thing. Maybe, I don't know. I think a lot of people would agree with me. I think you were kind of that turning point in the gaming space where we all felt comfortable to talk about mental health. I feel like I wasn't comfortable talking about mental health until I saw you talking about mental health, which is why I reached out so many years ago. Let me just add that we have literally been trying to get on each other's shows for like years. Let me just say that too. But I would like to say that because I really honestly was not comfortable talking about it until I saw you talking about it. So,
whoa.
Yeah.
Oh my, do you know how much of a compliment that is? My brain is exploding right now. That's wild.
Well, no, I'm serious.
The world to me.
I'm serious. I'm
not gonna cry, but I'm crying inside.
No, I'm serious. I feel like you really introduced that to this space. Now, obviously, I want to give credit to everybody where credit is due, you know?
A ton of people worked.
Yeah. So, but, you know, I remember specifically it being you for me. So, you know, obviously, I greatly appreciate that. So,
oh my gosh,
you are so welcome. So that kind of actually, like, from the talk show to this point, like, what made you want to talk about mental health? Did you see that there was a space missing? Were you just tired of being quiet about it and you're like, no, I want to talk about this is normal, let's break the stigmas? Like, what was going through your mind when you were like, we're going to talk about mental health, I'm going to do this talk show?
Yeah, no, all of those things. It was the first and foremost, I was like, I'm so done not talking about this. I'm so done. Whether it was like my in-laws or just people like outside, I was so done being like, I'm tired. When in reality, I meant I'm freaking depressed, you know? I was so tired of being like, oh yeah, I don't feel like hanging out, sorry. When in reality, I was having panic attacks. Like I was so done with that.
Yeah.
And then I had the background in medical editing and publishing. And so I knew I was good at finding good sources and summarizing them. And I knew down the line that I wanted to talk to mental health professionals. And I'm very honored for every mental health professional that's come onto the show.
Tons,
because the goal was never for me to give like give advice or tell people like give people direction or anything like that. The goal was never to be like, here's what you do with your mental health. Like I never went into, like my goal was never let me be a motivational mental health speaker. It was more just like, I'm going to be a mental health speaker, period. Because I don't see a lot of people doing it. And Twitch seemed like the right place again, because like on YouTube, people just like comment and it's good or bad and then it's gone. But on Twitch, you can have these conversations, you can have back and forths, you can have people come in and ask like, hey, I'm wondering about this thing. And then I can respond to them being like, hey, I either know about this because of this, or here's my personal experience, or hey, I don't know jack about that, I'm gonna have a professional on. Like recently the community was like, video game addiction, like, is that a thing? And then it kept coming up a few episodes and I was like, I know who to invite. And that is my honor. Like the fact that I now know professionals in the field that are, one, comfortable coming onto my show.
Yes.
And two, that I can call upon to be like, please use your expertise and answer questions to the audience.
Yes.
That was also always important to me.
Yeah.
I think there are mental health professionals who give space to people to give advice, and that's totally cool. And like, that's what they want to do. That was never my goal. And I don't think I do that. So if I do, please let me know. But, yeah, so making sure that basically there was a way for people to access mental health information that didn't feel like I wanted to be that bridge from mental health is this really, really scary thing to, hey, maybe I will go talk to a therapist.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm going to check out that CBT book that I've been thinking about for years, but have been too embarrassed to buy. Like, that's what I wanted. That was my goal. And I didn't see that. And I wanted to create that. And I don't know if you know how far back you go, but I started as a crafting streamer and quickly found out that and this is not for compliments. This is not like, I just sucked at crafting. Like I have two left hands and I'm right-handed. Like it's just not
right.
And it's okay. It's
oh
okay.
yeah, totally.
There was a moment where like I was doing all these crafts and I was going to Michael's and buying supplies. And then I realized that like I kept buying stuff and then I would start the craft and then I would put it down so I could talk, because I could only focus on one thing at a time.
Right.
And then so I realized like when I had all these crafts building up too, I wasn't really good at them when I did make them. And 3 people were coming there to like talk about mental health, not to watch me. So, but originally the idea was if I'm crafting while I'm doing it, I'll be more comfortable discussing it because I have like something to do with my hands kind of. And then the audience has something distracting to look at.
Yeah.
Which it worked until it like just wasn't working anymore. And I think the whole community at that point agreed that they were like, yeah, let's just do chatting.
Just drop the crafts. Just drop.
Just you don't need to pretend. It's okay. The monstrosity I made on my first stream, I should have kept it, but it was so ugly and terrifying. It was meant to be a light cover that you put on a light fixture and it makes it look like there's like trees in the room. Right?
Oh, okay.
God, it was so bad. We put it on, it looked like there was like seaweed. It was so horrific. And
I wish you would have kept it.
I should have kept it. Like, look, now 3.5 years later, I'm like, why didn't you keep it, you dumb dumb?
Right.
But like at the time, I was like, this is embarrassing. I need to never see this again. I'm gonna burn it. Like, so I just threw it out. But yeah, just to give you an idea, like I really just crafting was not hitting it. It was not it.
Yeah, so this November will be 6 years of streaming, which is like blows my bonker, like wow. So I started as a CS:GO streamer, so yeah. Wow. And the same with me. I don't know what I was thinking that I even had the skills to play an FPS shooter game. But, you know, I mean, back in the day, I was pretty good when I was, like, young. And then I was like, ooh, let me try on PC. It's not the same. Let me just note that.
If you're playing every day, eventually.
Well, yeah, I just wanted to be good right then. So... Right. Anyway, that's how I started out. So that's really funny. Oh my gosh, the craft thing. My stomach is actually hurting from laughing. But no, good. you made such a good point that you are the bridge between, you know, being kind of nervous to talk about mental health and then opening up about it. And like, I am so proud of the gaming space, like in particular, because I feel like a bunch of us are getting more comfortable with talking about mental health.
Seen the shift.
Yes,
absolutely.
Yes. And absolutely. I think you have a lot to do with that.
I will never take credit for it, but I think I have seen the shift. I've seen, the fact is, when I started, you know, there's a lot of mental health professionals on Twitch too, which is why I'm like, I'll never take credit for it. But I've seen like people are now talking about the fact that people are taking breaks.
Yes.
When I started, the thing to do was to have 24-hour streams. Like that was the only way. Like that was the thing that like all those, you know, like Twitch streaming gurus were like, you got to do long streams.
Yes. 8 hours a day, 7 days a week
minimum.
Yeah.
Yep.
No.
And I remember like I came in and somebody had asked me, I did a 12-hour stream once and it was like dedicated to my dog because the community had like reached some kind of goal. And I was like, this is ridiculous. This isn't a good show. Like by hour 10, I was just like delirious.
Yeah, you're dead.
And I was tired and the dog didn't want to be on camera anymore because I had like a puppy cam and he's like, I'm done with this.
Yeah.
So I was just like, why?
Yeah.
I don't understand, because this doesn't feel good. And there's no, I mean, I can't speak for everyone. I'm sure somebody really, really enjoys it. But I imagine most people don't.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's one of those things that I feel like it's shifted. People taking breaks and their community being accepting of it. I mean, I have an incredible community. I'm very, very proud of them. And the fact that like I have them, because I will say, hey, I need a break. And they're like, when? Just tell us when.
Right. Exactly.
You know? And I'm so honored. And I don't think that used to be the case even when I started streaming. And I don't think that used to be acceptable.
No.
And that I can't take credit for that because multiple people have to do it before it's okay.
Right.
Like one person, it's awesome. But the more people do it, the more it becomes cultural.
Yes.
Cultural norm.
Yeah.
And like most people I see now stream for like 2-3 hours. That's it.
Yeah.
Most people that I know. And that was just like, I remember all the people I talked to that I was like, I'm not growing. They're like, well, have you tried streaming for 4 hours? I was like, have you tried talking about mental health for 4 hours? Do you feel good?
Right.
Do you think that feels amazing? Like, no, it's hard.
Yeah, no, exactly. And like, I talked about this a little bit too. Like, I want us to continue normalizing taking breaks. And, you know, I told you that I get my calendar out fresh when the year starts. And I already go ahead and every quarter put in a 1 to 2 week break in there. Just go ahead and do it and let your community know when it is. So they're prepared. Yeah. They know you're not going to be there and you all can like be ready for that break whenever it comes, you know? And I've always like kind of felt to myself, like by the time that 4th month, you know, every quarter, by the time that end is coming, I'm like, ooh, I could really use a break. So I feel like it's like, you know, perfect timing for that. So anyways, I 100% agree. I think it needs to be normalized heavily because and like, excuse my language, but like in my community, you know, we say fuck grind culture because I just don't believe in it. At some point you burn yourself to the ground. At some point you burn yourself to the ground.
It's stupid in any career.
Yeah.
It's stupid in any career.
Right.
But in a career where you're literally public facing and your moneymaker, God, that sounds so crude, but like your moneymaker is your personality, right? Is your ability to be on and be yourself and be your most authentic. And like, you can't do that when you're exhausted.
No.
Because you can't do anything when you're exhausted.
No.
It doesn't work.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting because I mean, that's the reason I had to leave that marketing job. Because grinding was so ingrained. It was like, well, you're not meant for this. And I was like, well, if I'm not meant for this, I'm not meant for anything. But that's just also not true. And that's its own problem.
Yeah. But, its own side issue. Yeah. And so that kind of leads into my next question. So what are some important things that you've learned about being a mental health advocate and working with, you know, listening to these mental health professionals and all of this stuff through your talk show? Like, what are some important things? You can even talk about your favorite things that you've learned, you know, just like whatever.
Ooh. There's a ton. There's so much.
That's what I figured. That's why I was like, oh.
I would hope, right? In 3.5 years, you learn something.
Right.
But yeah, so I guess the most important thing that I learned is the value of taking a break. I used to believe that like, if I really love something, I'm going to push myself and I'm going to want to do it all the time.
Right.
And the reality of it is, you can love, because you know that there's that phrase of like, if you love something, you never
work a day in your life. Uh-oh, we're dropping. Don't look. Her face is frozen. Hold on. We're going to see if we can get her back. Oh,
wait.
Okay, you're back. You're back.
Oh my God, I freaked out. Okay.
You're back.
Okay.
Your face was like,
sorry.
I was like, oh no, don't look at her. Okay, there we go.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Oh my gosh.
Don't be sorry.
Thank you, internet. Thank you, internet. We love you. I kept talking too, so maybe that would get recorded. I don't know. Anywho.
So taking a break, the importance of taking a break.
So I had this, there's that stupid saying of,
right.
You'll never work a day in your life, but like that's baloney because living is exhausting. You don't have to be working. Like just existing is tiring, and you need to take breaks. And I don't know where this idea started that like if you love something, you're gonna like break yourself for it.
No.
But if you love something, you want to do it for a very long time. And the only way to do something for a very long time is to pace yourself with it. Right. Is to make sure that you have the energy to do it for a long time. And so those are all lessons that like I know and I have them and I tell people about them. And then about once a quarter, I remember them again. Yeah. I'm like, oh, I'm tired. I should do the thing that I tell everybody to do.
Right? Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And there's also research. I can't remember the researcher right now. So if somebody correct me or, you know, if you find that it's inaccurate, please let me know. But the research that I remember is that apparently it's more motivating to us to have breaks in our schedule. So like people who are about to go on vacation are most productive the 2 weeks before they go on vacation. Right. Because you're looking forward to something and you're also trying to like, you know, you're trying to get ahead of stuff, but you're also, you have something to look forward to. So, you know, like at the end you get this, you know, there's the carrot on the stick. Like at the end, you're going to get that cake. So yeah, it's totally worth it. I'm going to push myself a little extra hard, but then I get to, you know, chill hard.
Yeah. Enjoy the break, which is which is why I do the once a quarter, because I feel like, oh my gosh, I get like really super excited when that break is coming up, you know, and like I feel like it gives me that extra little push to get through until the break, you know, and then the break is like I get to fully enjoy it, you know. So no, that's a really interesting. I love that. It's really interesting.
Scheduling ahead. You think as a project manager I would have thought of that, but I think I'm gonna do that. Like I schedule like a month in advance. Yeah. But it's usually like the month before I'm already like, I'm burning out. And then I schedule it for the next month and I have to do it in like another 3 weeks. Yeah.
No.
You just do it smart.
Yeah. Just go ahead and do it. Everyone already knows, you know, and it's not a surprise to even yourself, you know, and your community backs you up. They're like, no, you're taking this break. You know, it's really, really nice. It's really nice. And so I would always recommend that. But I think some important things that I've learned from you is definitely taking the break and then like just talking about things, because I know, I mean, for a while, like I was scared to talk about the things that I was going through, you know, and it felt abnormal because, you know, 7th grade, here I am starting anxiety medication. I don't see anybody else taking anxiety medication that I know of. But now that we're older and I hear of other people's experience, I was like, oh yeah, I was totally taking depression medication in 9th grade. You're like, what? Oh my gosh, you know? So
you weren't alone, but you never knew because you never talked about it.
Right. Yeah. And so I'm so glad that you have kind of led the torch into that, because I think it's super important in gaming because, and this is why I started Motivational too, because people need to know that there is a surface level to gamers, but there's this layer underneath that not everybody gets to see. And that, you know, for example, like Violet came on the show, she's a caretaker to her father. And like we talked about, you know, what it is that she goes through with that, you know, and like you deal with mental health stuff, and like, that's important. There's a layer that we need to shed there that needs to be more normalized, and people need to know that gaming and streaming, it's not all that it's cut out to be. There are things underneath, you know, that we need to talk about. So, absolutely. You know, I really appreciate us talking about that and you talking about it, you know. And speaking of gaming, what are some ways that we all in this space, in the gaming space, I guess more specifically, could help break the stigmas on mental health? What would advice, you know, would you give us?
That's it. You keep leading me to the perfect answer. Seriously. No, but that's it. Like just talking about it. Right. And when somebody uses the word like crazy, gently correct them. You don't have to be that jerk that's like, don't say that. I've seen people do that. Right. Like, that doesn't encourage people to correct themselves. Right. Like just take them to the side maybe after, or, you know, like it doesn't have to be public, or DM them and just be like, hey, by the way, that's kind of a stigmatized word. Like
right.
stuff like that makes a huge, huge difference.
Yes.
Talking about like if you hear somebody making fun of people
right.
for, you know, like, oh my God, she's so crazy, she's so bipolar. Like be
right.
like, yeah, I don't think that's correct. Why would you say that about her,
right.
you know, or whatever? Like stop people in their tracks when they are doing things that are hurtful that
right.
we're so culturally like okay with doing. And correct them gently with kindness, yes. You know, and not everybody will still correction is correction. Not everybody loves that.
Yeah.
But you know, correct people with kindness and it goes a huge long way.
And no, yeah, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No. I interrupt all the time. You're totally fine. The other thing definitely is learning. It's so important for us to learn what our resources are, right? Like yes. I tell people, hey, check out Take This. And they're like, what's Take This? And I'm like, it is literally a gaming mental health site with all the information you could possibly need in terms of you being a gamer and it having reliable like information that you can read about gaming and your mental health, okay. Whether you're an industry professional or okay. Somebody just like looking for like, what is this? What is that? What do I do if this thing happens? Yeah. Like they literally wrote the book on it. Not literally. They wrote the website on it, literally. And like people don't know about them.
Yeah,
so, like,
I didn't know.
There you go. Like continue talking about what you know, not just I think a lot of people see mental health and because there's so much stigma around it, the gut reaction a lot of people have is I shouldn't talk about this because I'm not a professional. I shouldn't talk about this because what if I say the wrong thing? And to that I always say, one, just don't talk about it like you're a professional.
Yeah,
you know, make sure people know you're not, like, don't pretend you're a professional. But the other thing is you are a professional in your experience. Nobody else gets to tell you how you actually experienced your world. That's called gaslighting.
Yeah.
So if like you can talk to people and tell them like, oh, when I experience depression, it's actually like this. Yeah, my BPD episodes, they go like this. And you know, that's okay. There's nothing wrong with saying this is how I see the world. That's totally okay. And that's your view and that's your experience. And anybody who's going to come at you and give you crap about that and tell you like, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. No, I know my life. I've lived it. Thank you very much. You haven't.
Yes.
So I'm able to talk about that. And when people, you know, when people come and like, people ask questions in chat sometimes where they're like, I broke up with my boyfriend and I don't know how to handle it. Or I just got laid off. Like, what should I do? And I always say like, hey, I'm not a professional, but I can be a friend and I can tell you what I would do in your situation.
Exactly.
Like those are all very normal, safe things to do within boundaries of mental health conversation. Again, as long as you're not telling people you should take this medication or, and I say this a lot, look, I'm not your gatekeeper. I'm not going to tell you this is how you mental health advocate. I'm not doing that. I could tell you though what to avoid to not cross like boundaries. I could definitely offer insight there. I'm not going to tell you don't do what you're doing because that's none of my business. Like if that's what you want to do, if you want to go out there and you want to give out advice, like that's on you. I wouldn't do that. But that's at the end of the day, like still not my business. But yeah, so having, you know, making sure that people have those disclaimers, know where you're coming from, know that you're coming from a personal experience and not, again, like avoiding stuff like, hey, you should take medication for that. You should take a substance for that. Oh, I think you might have this kind of illness. Like
diagnosing.
Don't diagnose people. Don't say like, hey, you know, and listen, and it's even slipped out of my mouth before. Like people have come in into chat and they've been like, yeah, I just like, I can't eat. I can't sleep. I'm just like, I always am miserable and, you know, whatever. And then I'm like, wow, that sounds like you're really depressed.
Yeah.
That's technically crossing a boundary. That right there, like, is potentially crossing a boundary.
Yes.
It's better to be like, wow, it sounds like you're having a really hard time. But that's that line that people see that line and they run like 40 miles from it because they're like, I'm just not going to touch mental health because I don't want to go there. But to normalize these conversations, we do need to toe that line. We do need to have these discussions. We do need to talk about personal experiences. We do need to commiserate and empathize with people who are experiencing mental health issues. Listen, the most powerful, and I've said this before, hold on, motorcycle. The most powerful two words in the English language when it comes to mental health is that sucks. They go so far. Somebody comes to you, and this is I stole this from Parks and Rec, totally. But you know, somebody comes to you and goes like, man, I had a really hard day. That sucks. Somebody comes to you and says like, oh, I'm having a really hard time because I lost my job. That sucks. Those two words, like, you don't know what to say. Those two words will go such a long way. And just, they make people feel heard. They acknowledge their pain. They don't diminish it in any way. It doesn't make them feel like you don't care about their thing. It's just like, I don't know what to say, but that sucks.
Right. And you know,
I think I went off the deep end there.
No. It's all super important. And I'll reel us back in a little bit. I love, you know, that you mentioned that, you know, we need to check our ableist language, you know, our, you know, those words. I will never forget. Okay, so I have family members with bipolar disorder, and I will never forget when just someone used it as like, oh my God, you are so bipolar. And I'm like, okay, but my family member who has, you know, bipolar disorder, like their life is actually really hard. And that wasn't funny, you know, like, I don't know why you would say that because, you know, like, and it was only because I could have possibly, or that other person could have possibly just been laying a boundary down, but you're calling that person a bitch and putting bipolar disorder with it, you know, you like people don't think about those things, you know, and like, you know, obviously I am working at this too, trying to replace the word, you know, crazy and just like things like that, just to be just on the safe side, because I talked about this on Twitter a little bit. I really, sometimes social media can be like your worst enemy. And I feel like when these news reports come out about, and trigger warning, you know, politics maybe just a little bit, but like when these shootings happen and they call the shooter, you know, crazy or had this issue, you know, they are continuing to stigmatize mental health, because I have anxiety and depression, but my mind.
I don't do that.
Right.
I'm not going to do that. And statistically speaking, if you go and do research right now, the number of people who have a mental illness that can potentially lead them to harm people is less than 2.3% of the American population. And the number of people with those illnesses, so now we're talking about 2%.
Yeah, right.
And the number of people out of that 2% who actually act on those actions is 0.3%.
There's the facts.
You hear about it on the news. You hear about it. You hear about it everywhere,
social,
right? Like, and it's connected, like, oh, this guy went and hijacked a plane or whatever, and that was connected to, oh, and he also has a mental health history. Absolutely. And I'm not turning my eye on the fact that there are mental illnesses that cause people to be violent.
Yes.
I'm not discounting that, but again, it is such a minor option that to connect the two is literally saying like, well, all fish are salmon. Like, it's
seriously.
It's not, I know I'm really like simplifying it, but like, it's not one and the same. And I understand when these tragic events happen, we want answers.
Right, yeah.
And mental illness seems like a really easy answer. It seems like a really easy way to be like, oh, I know what happened. He's just crazy. That's why he did it. Yeah, case solved. But then like we're perpetuating it. We're making it seem like other people like that would do that thing. And that's not true. I might have nothing in common with this person other than we have the same diagnosis from this book that people use to diagnose people. Like, that's ridiculous. That is so silly. We don't compare people in this way with a lot of things, but we do, and it perpetuates the stigmatism.
Yeah.
The not astigmatism. It perpetuates the stigma.
Yeah.
Words are hard. Okay.
No, that's okay. It's funny.
I do have astigmatism too, but that's completely irrelevant.
I mean, they all sound the same, right? No, but you know, I've just noticed that, and that's how I believe that us in the gaming space need to keep talking about, like, you know, you talked about video game addiction earlier, you know, like how can we talk about our experiences with gaming and how they make us feel, you know, so that we can continue to keep breaking these stigmas on even that possibly, you know? So I've noticed that in our society, the headlines are always trying to break down mental health and people who suffer from mental health issues. And that has always bothered me. And because, yeah, and then talking about ableist language again, and just, we all have to work at it together. And I've told you this. We talked about this after your show, when I was on your show. I said, being a mental health advocate does not mean you are perfect. It does not mean that you are perfect.
This literally came up again this week. So,
well, there we go. So, there is no perfect advocate out there. You are going to make mistakes. You might say the wrong thing, but you have to forgive yourself. And I think that's also why people don't talk about mental health more, is because they're scared to mess up. They're scared to be corrected.
You know, put on this level of like, I was literally talking about it with a mental health professional the other day. And they're like, they shouldn't have held you to that level. And I was like, but they did. And I feel like I have to live up to it because of that.
Right.
And I was like, and I still, like, if I do mess up, it's still, no matter who you are, if you mess up, it is your job to apologize and try to make amends.
Yes.
Period. Right?
Yes.
But adding on to that a layer of I'm a mental health advocate does not help you or me. It doesn't help me in the process of trying to help the other person heal who I hurt. Doesn't help them in any shape or form, make them feel better. It's just context for you to be able to further diminish my attempt at an apology.
Yeah.
Right? Or my attempt at correcting something. Like, it is, I understand why people do it, because I get the concept of, you talk about the brain and knowing stuff and understanding how people work so much. How could you possibly mess up?
Yeah.
And tell, and whatever, do whatever you did.
Right.
How could you do that if you know the brain so well? But like, I don't know where that book is that like determined the rules that if you do X, you do Y. Like the metaphor that I talked to a psychologist about this, and the metaphor they brought up is, what if you go into a doctor's office and they're, let's say, a little bit overweight? Do you go to them like, oh, that being overweight is bad for your health, so I don't want to take any of your advice? Like, you would, that's stupid. That's not, you shouldn't judge people like that, right? And so it's the same thing with like mental health advocacy. Like, I'm still gonna mess up, especially because I do very openly talk about mental health conditions that prevent me from being neurotypical.
Yeah.
Like, does that, again, and this is a whole separate topic, but like, does that absolve me from error? No. It gives context to the error.
Yes.
It gives context to the error. And, oh, puppy. But it does not in any shape or form absolve me or make it so that I don't have to apologize or make amends or make up for what I did. But it should give you enough context that hopefully you don't hold me to some ungodly level.
Right.
But,
Exactly.
But I think, and it goes back to exactly like you said, I think it goes back to the stigma. If people understood mental health more, I don't think they would think that.
Yes. And, it's one of those things. It's been so taboo for so long. I think it still makes people really, nervous to talk about it, but it's important, and I think, as someone who cares about you, I just wish for people and that people would stop coming to you with this, oh, well, you're a mental health advocate, you should know better. And it's like, well, I'm still learning, I'm still human, things like that. That's my hope for those of us who do stand up for those who suffer from mental health issues, is that people stop putting us on this pedestal that is like, you need to know better, you should know better. And it's like, I'm still human at the end of the day,
Well, that's it.
So
there's that, I know this is super cheesy and like probably like a high school quote, but there's that quote from the Joker, is like, the hardest part about having mental illness is that everybody wants you to pretend that you don't. Like, everybody wants to hold you to a standard that like you're fine. Yeah. And they're comparing themselves to you and going, I wouldn't do that. But I did. And again, I can't repeat this enough. It does not absolve you. It's not a free card to be able to go and be shitty to people.
No.
Though it is though, like I'm gonna need you, if we're gonna talk about equity, I'm gonna need you to hold me at an equal standard to people like me, and not to, I don't know where you are.
Oprah,
you know?
I don't freaking know, you know, like,
oh God, Oprah, holy Oprah.
you know, but no, I love that. I love that. And, you know, I think it all comes down to the basic premise that our world is seriously and honestly missing empathy and sympathy. Huge, hardcore, you know? And so if I, you know, for anyone who's listening, for anyone who is watching, please, like, yes, we, you know, those of us who have mental health issues and talk about mental health, like, yes, we do need to apologize. But at the same time, like, please do not expect us to have all the answers. We don't.
No, and I don't. And I hope I never put on a front that I do. I hope that never came off that way either.
No, I just think that people hear mental health advocacy and they think we have it all together and we know the answer to everything. And
so not to diss the title of your show in any shape or form, but like, I think, no, really, I think people hear mental health advocate and they like connect it to like motivational speaker.
Okay.
And a lot of motivational speakers come up with this front of like, I figured it out. Follow these steps and you'll figure it out too.
Yeah.
And that is not mental health advocacy.
No.
Mental health advocacy is more like, I'm effed up and here's how I deal with being effed up.
Yeah.
Hopefully this helps you not F up as much as I F up.
Yes.
That's how I think it should be, but that's how I think people see it.
Well,
but yeah, explanation, not excuse. Absolutely.
Yeah. No, it's, you know, and to talk about motivational a little bit, it did start out just me by myself giving motivational speeches because that's what I wanted to do at one point. But then I realized, like, no, I want to motivate people to live their best lives and talk about the real shit and, like, you know, excuse my language, talk about the real shit and, like, talk about the fucked up stuff that we all go through, our brains. Oh my gosh, you have this thing going on the side. Oh my God, you also survived cancer. You know, like, I want to talk about like motivational things in life, and mental health is motivating. Talking about it and getting that release, it's motivating. It's extremely motivating.
What's motivating to me is real people talking about, like,
yes,
I don't want to hear your story, and there's an amazing TED Talk on this, but like, I don't want to hear your story about how you overcame cancer and now you're like this amazing person. I don't want to hear that. What I want to hear is, how did you go through living with cancer?
Yeah.
What was that like for you?
Because it sucked.
How did you get, because it sucked.
Yeah.
How did you get through the day to day? How did you motivate yourself to get to the other side and to believe that the other side was going to be there, that there is a bright light coming that's, you know, that's good, that's positive. How did you do that? I want to hear that journey. I want to hear about how you had an like awesome time in the end, or that it was really hard, but you figured it out. I've heard those. Like, I'm done hearing those. I don't need to hear that. I want to hear the real story. I want to hear the in-between part.
Yes, I feel like we as humans, we need something to like relate more to. We need something to like sink down into, because I say this all the time. Life is not roses and candy all the time. It's not. And I'm not going to sit here and preach that it is. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that it is, because I would be lying, and you're doing a disservice to people when you're not telling the truth.
Because people, we want to hear somebody say there's a fix. I want to know. I dream of a day where somebody goes, depression, I got it, fixed, all done, never have to worry about it again. So when you perk up when you hear somebody be like, oh, I figured something out. But then those people are preying on people who are vulnerable, who like, just, I don't want to experience this anymore. Of course, I'll listen to anybody who tells me that maybe there's a solution out there. And so, like, that's why, like, I don't want that BS. I don't want to hear it anymore. I'm done. I'm good. Like, I've heard enough people tell me that there's a simple answer to stuff, and I'm come to the point in my life where I know there's not a simple answer to stuff, and I'm okay with it. I'm okay. I want to hear how you got through it, because it's not simple.
Yeah.
That's what I want to know.
I love that. And
I love you.
I love you. And I do think that it's important, you know that you have helped me. And I mean, I
That's
know,
very sweet of you.
I know that your community also feels the same way because, you know, I spoke with Jambo about this, and I know Jambo's been encouraged by you, you know, and I'm in therapy. I'm in therapy now, you know,
That's
and like
amazing. I'm so
that
proud of you.
was such a huge, like, I'm just gonna say this in general, like I'm Cuban and Colombian, and like just even like talking about mental health and like all
it's not a cultural
no
thing.
no like get over it, rub some dirt in it, and like move on. There's work to do, there's a house to clean, there's a man to feed, you know, like just shit like that. So that was tough for me to like, I'm not as strong as I thought I was. And like, let me say this too, because I think that this is important that everyone kind of hears this and maybe just relishes in it for a second. Don't get me wrong, I love it when people tell me that I'm strong for my chronic illness and what I deal with on a daily basis. But because so many people told me that for so long, I believe that I didn't need help, that I was strong enough, that I was going to be able to get through it no matter what. And so when I finally like realized I am not as strong as people say I am, it was hard. It was really, really hard. Like I applied for therapy twice and canceled twice. And then this third time I finally realized like I was hurting myself. And, you know, so I do want to put that out there. People love it when you tell them that you're strong, but please remember that like sometimes that's not what it is. You can be honest and tell someone, hey, maybe you should talk to somebody.
Hey, maybe you're strong, but you can keep that strength by talking to someone who can help you maintain it, who can help you feel like yourself. There's a lot of strength and vulnerability, but we're not taught that. So you hear strong and you think, I have to do it myself.
Right.
And the two are not necessarily, you know, truths together.
Yeah. And, you know, coming from a Hispanic family and stuff like that, like that was it. Like you're strong and that's it. That's it. That's the solution. You're strong and you push on. Life sucks. Carry on. And you're just like, I'm living that, and it doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel right. And so I'm so glad that I finally was like, okay, like I'm strong. I know that I deal with this on a daily basis, but like I need someone to kind of help me like carry the weight, you know, which is why I got into therapy or whatever. But no, all of that to say like, thank you / let's talk about, you know, what it means to like cover up mental health and like, hey, you're strong, you got this, brush it off, you know, rub some dirt in it, you know, like no, you can be real, you can be strong and still have mental health issues, you know. So
because the two, I think that's part of the stigma, that's part of erasing the stigma, is teaching people that like mental health isn't just you being depressed. Mental health is you taking care of your brain the same way you take care of your body. And for both, if you are crap to your body, you're going to have problems later in life. If you are crap to your brain, you're going to have problems later in life. And like, can you go through life just rubbing dirt and moving on? Some people can. Like I've seen people, right? It's the same people who turn around and go to you like, why can't you, right? I've seen people be able to do it, but in my opinion, I feel like your life is so much more fulfilling and full if you get to experience the full spectrum of your own emotions in it, instead of just shoving them all the way down and being like, no, this isn't real.
Oh my God, that just made me want to cry. No. I mean, it just makes me emotional because, you know, for I know I'm not alone in this. Like you just, you are scared. You don't want to know, you know, what this feels
what's
like.
In there.
Yeah.
Well, you do know, right? You do know what's in there. And you're like, I don't like it.
I don't want to face it. I don't want to face it.
I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to deal with it. I want to pretend it's not there.
Yeah. And
but the thing is then when you pretend it's not there, it comes out when it feels like it.
And that's not always the best time.
It's not usually the best time. But if you confront it, you get control over it.
Yeah.
You get to decide, oh, I know this thing is here. Now I know what to do with it. Yeah. If you don't know it's there, or if you're pretending it's not there, that doesn't make it less there.
Right. Yeah. And, you know, it's been hard because like I have gone to the low of low, you know, obviously trigger warning. I've gone there, and that's very scary to experience that. but I do feel like it was a piece of my puzzle that I needed to understand, you know? And I'm not saying don't be scared, because it's okay to be scared. It's okay to have fear, you know, but like I loved what you said, that life is so much more fulfilling when you experience the, you know, the array and the ranges of your emotions, you know. That's gonna stick with me. I love that. I love that so much.
Good.
And you know, that kind of leads into our last and final question. You know, like if someone was having a hard time right now, you know, what would your overall advice be to them? It could be as specific or as just generalized as you want it to be.
Well, I want to go through the whole spectrum of options. So if I don't know this person, it's very important for me to still establish that boundary, but with empathy, saying you matter, your life matters, I want you here, I need you here, this earth needs you here.
Yes.
However, I'm not the right place for you. I need you to go to crisis text line, veterans crisis line, Trevor Project, National Suicide Hotline there, and you can give them a little kind of like explanation, like there, they'll be able to talk to you and they'll know how to have a conversation with you around these emotions that I am not equipped to help you with. It's not that they're bad or you're broken or anything like that, but I'm just another person. I'm just like you. So it's like you giving advice to yourself. It's not going to really go anywhere. You need somebody who knows what's going on to give you that insight. And so if I don't know someone, that is my go-to. That is my like go-to resources that are going to do something for you.
Yes.
What I can give you is empathy. Like I can give you this sucks. But I can't give you anything more than that. If it's a friend, if it's a friend and it's a pattern, I've lost friendships over this, where I've pushed people towards like going to therapy and accepting help when they weren't ready for it. That's how you push people away. And it's a lot better. I mean, yes, they're setting boundaries. Yes, they're being like, hey, if you don't get help, I don't know that I can keep talking to you because you're using me as a therapist. You're saying you don't need therapy, but you're using me as a therapist. It's okay to establish that boundary and step away. I've done that as well. But it is important to start with empathy and talk about resources that they can use and talk about what their options are. And the best thing that you can do, we are, for all intents and purposes, just more advanced monkeys, and monkeys learn by imitating each other. The best thing that you could do is imitate a behavior and be like, this is working for me. This is awesome. So again, talking about it. I went to therapy and it really worked out for me. Okay, therapy might not be your thing, but I also picked up this self-help book. That really worked out for me. I also, went and took this like course on anger management. That really worked out for whatever it is, or offer them to come with them or whatever it is, right? If it's a friend, you have a little bit more bandwidth maybe to do something. But in general, if somebody's suffering, like those two magic words are a great start. And that start is empathy, right? Just empathy.
It's breaking yourself down to that level. And you know, I know that there was a time in the gaming sphere where, you know, if someone did come with an issue in chat and the streamer or the entertainer or whoever was like, well, I'm not a therapist, like you don't need to talk to me about this kind of stuff, like we're vibing, we're having a good time. And it's like that is the wrong way to approach this, in my opinion, I guess, in my opinion, you know.
Well, in fairness, I know why I understand that, because it's scary. It's so scary. Somebody comes to you and says, I don't want to live anymore. What are you supposed to be like? Wow, that's a great time. Like, no, it's terrifying. It's terrifying. It's stress inducing. You feel like you're responsible for this person now. It's a lot. So I understand why people are like, oh, I'm just not touching this with a 10-foot pole. I get it. But if you do have the spoons and the empathy, you can get your mods trained. Like, that's awesome. Mental health first aid is amazing. No Stigmas Ally training is free. So if you can't access mental health first aid, No Stigmas Ally is free. You can go and check out resource, again, like takethis.org. To Write Love on Our Arms has a ton of resources like this. Those are all awesome places that you can go to where you can, where people will give you, where you can send this person and say, they have answers. I don't have answers. It's okay to say, yo, maybe not, it's okay to say, but like, yeah, you're vibing, you're having a good time, but like maybe give a little bit more humanity than just
that's
pushing
what I
person
mean.
aside.
That's I think that's where I was going with it, because yes, you do have to establish boundaries. I am not specifically trained to help you with this, but like I still like care about you and want to make sure that you're okay. I think that's what I meant. And I apologize.
I'm sorry if I sounded like I corrected you. I was trying to redirect, but I sounded like I corrected you. I'm sorry.
That is what I meant. I just didn't know how to eloquently like approach it, and I reacted off like emotion there for a second.
You're fine. You know, I've been doing this for 3.5 years, so I have a prepared speech. It's not like
no. So I just, I think, like I said, I think the world seriously lacks empathy and sympathy. And I've always told my community, and if I haven't told it enough, I'll say it again. Like, if you could always lead with empathy and sympathy first, like, you can change someone's life. You can change the world. I heavily believe in the butterfly effect and, the ripple effect and, anything that we can do to cause that first flap of the wing, that first, ripple, do it. And don't stop talking about mental health, because it's important. People need to know that they're not alone. People need to know that actually what you are thinking is actually normal, because I thought it yesterday, or
I love this so much. All those things.
Absolutely. And like I said, therapy, as scary as it was, I am so freaking thankful for it, because it is challenging me, and as a person who likes challenges, that kind of feeds the ego, right? But
you found the right therapist for you. That's I also am somebody who likes being challenged. Some people didn't have that person to like coddle them, and they needed a therapist to coddle them. Everybody needs somebody different.
Exactly.
I'm glad you found the right therapist for you. That's awesome.
And I do want to say that too. It takes time to find someone that you are comfortable with, and that is giving you the right type of care. So be patient with them and be patient with yourself. This is my fourth one, so it took 3 other ones where I was like, oh, I don't think this is working for me, so I want to say that too. And just like, don't be nervous to just talk about these things, and like, let's continue to break the stigmas. Let's continue to like let people know that this is normal. Gamers experience this, entertainers, content creators, we all experience these things. It's not fake, it's not taboo, it's real. So no. Anyways, that is going to be it. But what I would like you to do one last time is introduce yourself again, talk those links, talk those socials, games, whatever, all of the things, so that people know where to find you, look you up.
Okay. All right. MXiety, it's under my name here. For those of you who are listening and can't read my name, MXiety. I totally know how to spell my name. I got this. It's MXiety without the A-N, with an M instead. So it's because my name is Marie, or M. Okay,
so question. Off the record. What made you choose MXiety? Because of anxiety? Okay.
I sat there and I went through so many things. And then I remember I just said MXiety, and my brain went, that's it.
Yeah.
That's it. MXiety.
Yeah.
But then it was funny because a lot of people don't know how to pronounce it, and that killed it for a second there. But once you explain it to them, they're like, oh, yeah, no, that makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. No, absolutely.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, no. Yeah. So Tuesdays and Fridays on twitch.tv/MXiety. Find me on the Twitters, where I offer just information and encouragement as much as I can. I'm also on Insta and TikTok, but not super often, so I'll be there less. But definitely Twitter and Twitch is my home. I have my email in my bio, so if you have any questions that of course are not related to like, what should I do? I'm feeling depressed. I can not help you with that. I can send you resources, but I can't tell you what, like, I'm not going to give you therapeutic advice. But if you have any questions about like, hey, I really didn't understand like this concept or this thing you said, or hey, you actually gave a wrong stat, please let me know. I would love to know that. So my email's in my bio and Twitter, and Tuesdays, Fridays, 6 p.m. we have this beautiful concept in the community called Be the Light. And that is this idea that if you feel like the world is dark and nobody can give you the love and the care that you need, you go out there and be that light, lead by example, and be that light to others. And yeah, you are a very, very bright light, Ashlina. Thank you so much for all
Oh,
you do.
oh
And
my
thank you for your
gosh.
kind comments. Like, I'm going on vacation now. I'm going to be floating on air like as I process all of this.
Oh, well, that makes me happy. And I would love for you to talk about your event that you have coming up, the Upliftathon.
Upliftathon!
Yeah, please talk about that. Please talk about that.
So the Upliftathon is an event where a bunch of streamers get together and they all share either positive stories or they do a song or whatever it might be. We are now, so it was previously only fundraising for To Write Love in Arms has a scholarship specifically for therapy for streamers. If you are a streamer, you sign in with your Twitch account and you can get access to a scholarship to get therapy.
Wow.
It's amazing. So that's what we're fundraising for. But due to recent circumstances and everything going on in the gaming streaming world, we've decided to double fundraise. We'll be raising equally for also Trans Lifeline, which is a suicide hotline specifically made by and geared towards trans folks. So we'll be dual raising for those two. It's an amazing, uplifting event. I promise you all the serotonin. Like if you're looking for serotonin, that's where you're going to find it. We're going to have giveaways from Blue, Logitech, and Gamer Advantage. It's going to be like a super fun time. We did it on other. Oh yeah, May 25th, 6 p.m. Eastern. We did it on the other platform and people were floating for like a week afterwards. So I hope to make it half as good. That would still be great.
No, I am super excited about that. Friends, please take all those notes, make sure you heard what's happening, and just thank you so much for being on the show. I really do appreciate that.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for giving me the space and time.
Oh my gosh, of course.
Thank you for reaching out all those years ago. And I'm sorry that I was tired and didn't have enough bandwidth to appreciate you then, and I appreciate you.
You talked about it though. You were going through a rough time. And you know, you deserve to have that grace and that peace about that.
Very sweet of you.
Don't worry about that. I appreciate you so much. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you so much.
I appreciate you.
Have a good, I don't know if you gonna keep going or whatever you're doing. But you're awesome. So
well, I appreciate that.